Hey, Mark here. And oh boy, do I have an awesome giveaway for you. I have 5 digital copies for the film Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning up for grabs. And if you'd like to win a copy, just shoot me a message and be like, hey, Mark, this franchise rules. Tom Cruise is great in it. The stunts are wonderful. You don't have to say all that. But I'm telling you, this movie rocks, and I have 5 digital codes up for grabs. You definitely want to get it. You really do need to watch Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning. It's a lot of fun. Our lives are the sum of our choices. Bring home Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning on digital now. Tom Cruise stars as Ethan Hunt in his action-packed thrill ride that film critics are calling the biggest and wildest mission yet. Go inside the incredible stunts with over 50 minutes of jaw-dropping extras when you buy on digital. Available at participating retailers. Rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures. Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who just finished off a delicious club sandwich. It's Professor Mike Dillon.
Hoffmeyer. Don't forget the cold Mexican beer.
I figured you would jump in with that. So then, what a move! I love this movie first and foremost, and I bought the black and white version of it, Johnny Mnemonic in black and white,
Which
and
I've never seen.
it's gorgeous. And I didn't know back in the day, I didn't know about Robert Longo's art. I didn't know that was featured in American Psycho. I didn't know about the Men in Cities or any of that. So watching it now in black and white, it is quite gorgeous. So going back and watching the 1995, like just colored version, like in color kind of Canadian shot film, there's still some really great frames, but it just looks so gorgeous in black and white. And I know people have problems like when you convert a film to black and white, they're like, what does that do? But I mean, knowing about Longo's art now, it really elevates the experience. So I'm just very happy to have watched it. It's just
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a handsomely made movie. I mean, it may be a few too many canted angles for my taste, but yeah, there's definitely frames you could pull out and you know frame them on a wall or something like that. And also the black and white cyberpunk is so rooted in noir that
Yeah.
to kind of give it this throwback look and make it seem as though it's a science fiction film that could have been made in the 50s, I think is neat.
After researching this film and listening to the commentaries, there's a Q&A on the like 23-minute Q&A with Gibson, Longo, and Reeves talking about the film. Like I think in 2021 they recorded it. I feel like John. Okay, this is how I think what happened to Johnny Mnemonic. You know when someone throws a nice intimate party with just a few friends, and you're gonna just kind of hang out, and you're gonna have a nice relaxing night with a few friends, have some drinks, hang out, but then a couple people come into it, and then a couple more people come into it, and then before you know it, you've completely lost control of the party, and it's kind of become something else. You don't know the people there, and it's really not your party anymore. I feel like that's what happened to Longo because they wanted to make a $2 million movie, black and white, Johnny Mnemonic, and then different studios got involved, more studios got involved. Keanu hit big on speed, more people got involved. And then it just sort of like then they had to go to Canada. They were going to shoot in New York, but then they had to go to Canada because of Keanu Reeves to get the tax credits. They were going to have the DP from Taxi Driver, but it went to another DP who had shot Weekend at Bernie's. Like that was like his, and Brain Scan was one of his major credits, and National Lampoon Senior Trip. So then all these new people come in. He had to go back and do reshoots. Like it just seemed like they wanted it small, but then it exploded, and then they kind of lost control of it. But at the end of the day, it still turns out to be a really fun movie. I enjoy this film and I enjoy watching it. But from what I get, it just seems like the house party that blows up, and then you kind of lose control of it. But I still think there's a lot to like about this film.
That's a fun analogy, and it's we're hitting the ground running here because this is a big reason I enjoy talking with you so much because in just that little intro you gave, I've learned more factoids about the making of the movie, which I thought I knew this movie like the back of my hand, but this is the Hoffmeyer special. Yeah, so I'm intrigued by you. So you said that so Speed is 1 year before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know if he was already signed on to do Johnny
He was.
or
He was
Speed was
already.
released?
So they were originally supposed to have. Oh man, who was the other? Oh, Val Kilmer was signed on.
Oh,
and
all right.
RIP. But then he
Pour
was
one out.
he was holding out for Batman Forever. But then he got Batman Forever and left really quick. And at this time, Keanu was great. He had done some good movies, but Speed really, like, he had Point Break, which was amazing. But then he had Bram Stoker's Dracula, with, I think that's one of the most gorgeous movies ever. But his accent wasn't great. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, when Speed comes out, he was already signed on to do it. And so then they're like, oh man, like this was supposed to be a March release, but they're like, we got to push it to May. Like we gotta bump this up, and we gotta do a video game. We need to do a soundtrack. We need to get all these people. And so then it became this kind of smaller cyberpunk film that everyone jumped on because of Keanu. Like, they wanted to get on the Keanu bandwagon. So then it got a really tough release date, and that's
Hmm.
why I think it. No, I don't think Longo or Gibson planned on this being a summer tent pole. They just wanted to be released in March, be smaller, be kind of grungy, and people
Yeah.
might like it. But then it just sort of exploded because of Keanu's popularity. But
Yeah.
Keanu was
It
great, and he
works.
loves Longo.
It works as a grungy B movie. It does not work as a tentpole release. And I
No,
think that because the expectations that come with that, like the movie doesn't meet them, right? But yeah, I was curious about that simply because I had assumed because Jack in Speed is he's quite wholesome and charming, and I had assumed that he wanted to get away from that, and then there was an interest on his part in playing Johnny as an anti-hero because Johnny is kind of a dick.
yeah, he is.
Right? If you think about
Yeah.
it, like whatever part of his brain they removed to make room for storage clearly took his manners with them as well. Because there's that line that I texted you. Uh, Jane, Dina Meyer asks, you have parents and stuff? And his response is, you got parents and stuff? It's so childish and juvenile, right? I mean, whatever part of his brain they removed is I think what modulates maturity and normal adults.
Oh, and like Henry Rollins is like, stop being an asshole. Like, he just
Yeah, he's
calls
not
him out
wrong.
for it. And he's just yelling at Ralphie all the time. He loves his $10,000 a night hookers, which is interesting.
Well, so you clocked the Chekhov's club sandwich,
Yeah.
right? I mean, do your listeners need us to explain what we're talking about before we dive
Yeah,
in? It's up to you.
yeah, go for it. Explain
Well,
it. Or I can.
oh, uh, well, late in the film, Keanu delivers arguably the greatest monologue of his career.
Yeah,
Uh,
easily.
well, I mean, maybe second to the I want no the it was free pizza monologue from Knock Knock. I would put that up there. But if I the I want room service, I want the club sandwich, I want the cold Mexican beer, I want the $10,000 a night hooker, and I want my shirts laundered like they do at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. Right? And like if I ever had to do a dramatic monologue, it would be this. It's the great battle cry for privilege and luxury in a world run by capitalism, right? To shake your fist in the heavens and demand that your first world problems be addressed immediately. That's essentially what the I want room service thing is. And so you very well spotted, by the way. I never would have caught this. You found in the first scene where we meet him in a hotel, the prostitute is about to leave, and there's a club sandwich, like a half-eaten club sandwich,
I don't know if
right?
I like it or not, though. Do you like the fact that it's in there now, or no?
Well, I think I mean, there's no need for it there.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder whether it means that he just eats the same thing in every hotel because that's what he wants. And I mean, I don't know if your daughter does this, but I tend to associate this behavior with little kids. Like they want the same thing all the time, like mac and cheese or dino nuggets. Like they like what they like and they want it every meal because there's a sense of safety and the familiarity. And the thing about Johnny, this ties back to my earlier point that he's kind of a dickhead. He's clearly suffering from some kind of arrested development as a result of his memories being erased, right? I mean, I'm no expert in this area, but I feel like if you can't remember anything from your past, it stands to reason that you're not able to access any of the wisdom and maturity that comes from drawing upon lived experience. And
Wow.
so him crying out for room service, the kind of creature comforts of room service, is really about crying out for the things that make him feel normal and safe and comfortable in this crazy world, like a security blanket. So it's kind of sad if you think about it.
Wow.
I didn't mean to think about it too deeply, but there's an element of him that's kind of reverting to being a scared child who just wants his favorite things to make him feel good.
Wow. Because
Yeah.
I love the spontaneity of that scene, and the beginning scene was a reshoot. They shot that after production had wrapped. So whoever
Hmm.
worked on the prop department or whoever rewrote the script, maybe it was Gibson, like, you know what? He said club sandwich and beer before and hookers. Let's just bring that in the beginning so that we know the kind of lifestyle he leads. But when I hadn't clocked those and when I didn't know that that was a reshoot, so just later on, I just thought he was pulling things out of thin air. Like, I just want a club sandwich. Like, I just thought, I just, I had the biggest smile on my face because a club sandwich. But now that you're saying that he had all of his childhood memories wiped and it's like his comfort food when he's on these runs because he's had his childhood taken from him and he needs his club sandwich and Mexican beer after every mission. That I didn't even think about your way of thinking about it. I just thought it takes away a lot of the spontaneity of it and like a lot of just the, did he say like laundry? Like it just, the absurdity of that speech is kind of different knowing that he gets those all the time, if that makes sense. That was my
Yeah.
rationale. But I like
I
that
think,
too, because he is a jerk. And you were right about Brandon Lee in Rapid Fire too. Like he's kind of a jerk too.
yeah, he's petulant, he's capricious. Yeah. I mean, the other interpretation could be that because he's experiencing such severe neural seepage at this point in the film,
Yeah.
like he's not aware that so his memories are kind of looping in on themselves. And so I want the club sandwich and the Mexican beer. And someone should step in and go, brother, you just had that 24 hours ago. Are you all right? Like he's experiencing, was it anterograde amnesia, whatever, like the memento disease,
Wow. Because yeah, that was a day before that, or
a day
two
or two
days,
at
depending.
most. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounded like he had been a long time since he had those. Wow. You just took it to another
Although,
level. I looked at it a very
although,
superficial thing of like, hey, I see it. And now I don't know if I
well,
like it. But then,
well, the other thing to bear in mind, and to go back to this theory that he's really just a dick, is so if the opening scene and the details you spotted refer to the comforts that he seeks and in the room service speech, it implies, I mean, first that he lives entirely out of hotels, so he's kind of a nomad, which makes a certain amount of sense in the kind of world we're dealing with. But more to the point about what a prick he is, it implies that the woman in the beginning who walks out on him by claiming to need to go get ice is a $10,000 a night hooker, right? That's
mhm.
what he wants. And so my very loose understanding is that sex workers, it pays to it pays to give you a good experience because they want your repeat business, right? And an escort charging upwards of 10 grand a night would definitely know this. So for her to just make up an excuse and leave in such an impolite way, he must have been insufferable as a client.
Yeah,
As a John,
yeah.
right?
As a job.
Yeah, she just
As a
wanted to
job.
get out of there.
Yeah, she ducks. I'm going for ice. We have
He's just
ice.
he's a terrible hang.
I think he is a terrible hang. And like the smooching with Dina Meyer scene towards the end, that's so tacked on because like it happens, but yeah, he
Yeah,
yells
what
at
does she see in
Ralphie.
him?
He he doesn't really have much tactical know-how because he just sort of walks into clubs. He just runs in to yell at Ralphie, even though he had been attacked. This guy's just kind of a chaos maker.
It's not clear what she sees in him.
And he lies about how many gigs he can hold. He's like, yeah, all right. Like, yeah, I can hold that.
Lies by a pretty big margin too.
Yeah, double the
I
amount. Yeah.
Yeah, if I had like 50 gigs of storage and you were sending me something that's like really close to like 49.5, be like, okay, I guess I can move some things around. But if you were giving me something that was what 200% more than I could handle, like, wow, sorry, I can't do it.
So
My brain isn't wet wired enough for it.
you know what it is? Yeah. He you don't have enough silicone in there, but he's so earnest, Keanu, that even when he's being a big old jerk, you just like the earnestness of him. It's like just like the dialogue delivery, like yeah, you have a mom and stuff, and just I don't. There's a like you just know he's a good dude. So all the time that he's saying all this petulant dialogue, I never once thought, man, this guy's a big jerk. I just kind of thought he's just Keanu and he's in a hurry because he's a good dude. It's kind of interesting that you brought that up because I never once thought, man, this guy's kind of a jerk. And when Rollins calls him an asshole, like he's hyper aggressive too. Like if 1995 Rollins calls you an asshole, you're doing something wrong. because that dude was intense.
Point.
Yeah, he's not a liar. I'm not. That song. Remember that video?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he's if you're crossing Rollins or if you're too intense for him, right? Yeah, it's a good point.
yeah. So he annoyed him, and I don't know. That took it to a whole new level. I need to watch it again now.
Although you could say no one has taken their role in the film more seriously than Dolph Lundgren.
You know, he had a naked preaching scene in front of a group of women that got cut. So
Is that scene available somewhere or just something
I
you
can't
read?
find it. There, it's and so you know what? So what happened was more producers got on board. So like you need Dolph, you need Udo Kier, you need what beat Takashi. Like
Takashi.
you need him. Like so they kept tossing people into the movie, and Longo, he's like, what do I do with Dolph? So then they just made him this preacher, and he has a naked speech in front of a bunch of women who are all into him.
It's it's the campiest performance of the film, I think, and that's saying a
Jesus,
lot. Um, so
okay,
yeah, Street Preacher takes his job maybe a little too seriously, and it kind of reminded me of Beekeeper with Statham. Now, I mean, maybe I just saw A Working Man a couple days ago, and
oh
so
my
maybe I
gosh,
just have Statham on the brain a little bit, but it reminded me of how in Beekeeper, he talks almost exclusively in beehive metaphors.
he throws jars of honey to light people on fire.
Yeah, it's like, it's sometimes you got to protect the hive, you know. And it's just he only and so Street Preacher only ever speaks in religious pronouncements. Even his dagger is a crucifix, right? He's so
Great
committed to
dagger.
the bit. He's
Yeah.
so committed to his own bit. You're a bigger Dolph Lundgren scholar than I am. I mean, where do you place this in his career? Is he kind of past his prime at this point?
Oh yeah. I mean, so by this point, he had some duds. I think Dark Angel's probably one of my favorite.
When is Blackjack?
So wait, let me pull up his thing here because like he had Showdown in Little Tokyo, that wasn't a big hit, and then he had like he just wasn't hot by this point, and this was his last starring role for many years. He would go to do direct to video stuff, but when we're talking about film, this was not. This was kind of the end of his run in big budget films for a long time. But in '95, like he had done Men of War, which is fine. He had done Pentathlon. He did Universal Soldier, which okay, you're gonna think I'm crazy. I think he delivers an Oscar nomination worthy performance, or at least Golden Globe. He's great in it. He has a monologue in a grocery store where he just nails it. But like Dark Angel wasn't that big. The Punisher didn't really even get released in the States. Dark Angel had a ton of problems in '88 being filmed. Masters of the Universe wasn't a hit. It was a hit on video. So he had Master of the Universe. He did the Maximum Potential workout video, which is insane. Red Scorpion, Punisher, Dark Angel, Cover Up, Showdown Little Tokyo. Universal Soldier was a hit, but it was more of a JCVD vehicle. And then, he had like Men of War and Pentathlon. So this wasn't like after this, he just went to direct the DVD land. This was kind of if this was huge, this would have helped him a lot. But the problem is he's fun in this movie. He gets hit by a car and he goes, Jesus. Like he keeps and he keeps saying stuff like that. It's Jesus time.
It's Jesus time.
And the look on his face when he gets zapped by the dolphin is
Yeah,
just
I'm a little unclear how they kill him at the end through the dolphin's thought waves.
yeah, because it could pierce submarines to read their he had this for submarines so we could get through the hole and read the stuff. So whatever the dolphin does creates like a sonic wave that whoever has implants in them gets affected by. So then he just and they did, they wanted him to come back, but Longo said no, and that's why there's that scene where he gets picked up at the end. He's just a dead
Yeah, that
body.
fake out.
Yeah, just garbage. Like that.
Kind of wish, yeah, there was more of a climactic battle between him and Jones, the dolphin, because then you get Dolph versus Dolphin. Just
Watching
too
him
easy.
front kick a dolphin would be. I think I'd stop watching movies because nothing would ever get better.
Yeah, we're done. We've seen it all.
But he's fun, but they cut his role back a lot because they said nothing about his he was professional on set. He was totally fine, but they didn't know what to do with him, and they told him that he had to be in the movie. So then that's why his role is just so odd and like it's Jesus time. Oh my gosh, what a great. I I love him in this movie, and I also have you seen Dark Angel?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think about Dark Angel? Do you like?
Long time ago though.
Oh, okay. It's just so
Yeah.
good. I love Baxley. I love those movies. But yeah, he got chucked in this. Like Ice-T got chucked in this film.
Yeah.
And then like it's a really there's too many characters in this film, and I could see it working as almost like a Sin City black and white type film. But I think what makes this work is the personality of it all. I just think it has a great personality, like Keanu doing bathroom tai chi when he gets his head smacked into the wall in another bathroom, like hearing Udo Kier say "not in the head," just that lady
when
who's screaming "motherfuckers" with rocket launchers shooting at
uh-huh.
the thing. I don't know. There's a lot
when
of character, and I love
when are people in the movies going to learn not to trust Udo Kier?
it.
Every friggin' time, right? I mean, the snake in the literal Garden of Eden probably sounded just like Udo Kier. That like that perfect measurement of like silky but also slimy.
Yeah, if he's your courier, or if like Joey Pantoliano is your courier from maybe like the Sopranos era.
Yeah, or Peter Lorre, from
Yeah,
70 years
exactly.
ago.
Just be like, you know what? I'm gonna get a new handler. Sorry, Ralphie. But then he gets
My,
killed,
yeah,
and you kind of miss him.
my
But
favorite Udo Kier delivery is actually from Blade when he's talking down Stephen Dorff, and he says something to the effect of uh, "I was born a vampire. You were merely churned." Oozing. He's got an oozing voice.
he always makes every role he's in better. I think you bring him in for
Yeah.
10 minutes, knock it out the park. Delight. I have a question? When did you first watch this movie? Because you recommended this for our series here. Like, what's your history with Johnny Mnemonic?
Hard to say. I mean, I saw it contemporaneously, so
Oh, okay.
within the year it came out, I probably saw it, and that was probably just Speed was so great. Not sure how I felt about Dracula, but certainly Point Break, and of course
Yeah.
Bill and Ted. So I like Keanu, and I was into sci-fi, things like that. So I would have seen it around that time. I became an instant Dina Meyer fan
Yeah.
because she was also in Dragonheart that year. So 95 was a very solid year for her. And then of course, any Dina Meyer fandom is cemented by Starship Troopers
And Bats.
and Bats. Bats is a little later, and then she's in
99.
Saw movies as well. Yeah. And
When
also, not to name drop too egregiously, but I've met Dina Meyer a few times. She's one of the nicest and most charming people you'll ever meet. I don't know what her secret is, but she also hasn't aged a day since Troopers. So she's just a really genuine and lovely person.
she's good in this movie.
She's good in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Like looks the part. I mean, just kind of and she sells it too when she has the shakes. Like she really goes for it in this movie because this is one of her first roles. But I think my first Dina Meyer experience was Starship Troopers, and when she got killed in that, oh man, I feel like millions of people's hearts sank in that moment because you know she's just the best. But yeah,
Yeah, that's when they're evacing her and she's dying, and Johnny, the other Johnny, is saying like, "No, you're gonna be fine," and she says, "No, I'm gonna die, but at least I got to have you." Yeah, that's a
for
rough moment.
for like 15-year-old kids, obviously the role was written, the performance was written by a dude, but for like a 15-year-old kid watching that, you're like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. So, do you mind if I go on a tangent? You can cut it out later.
Tangent away, yeah.
So like you said, the 15-year-old boy in me, or however old I was when I first saw Troopers, and I was obsessed with it. It was just such a cool movie, and that movie holds up.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it improves over time. I think the same thing about RoboCop, if we're talking
Oh,
Verhoeven. But I I I guess it was a crush. I guess that's as fair a way to put it as any on Dizzy, the Dina Meyer character, because she's so brash and tough and kick ass as well as the rest of them. And she's beautiful and cool, So you want to hang with Dizzy, and you don't want to hang with Carmen, the Denise Richards character, because her storyline's not as compelling. She's just this kind of lame character who breaks our hero's heart and all the rest of it. But I have since done a complete 180 on these two women. Yeah, still love my Dina Meyer and I love Dizzy, but I think two reasons. One is that Dizzy is just kind of single-mindedly obsessed with Johnny in a way that I think betrays a sort of shallowness to her character. Like she's still cool and spunky and all the rest, but she's just kind of boy crazy in ways that just aren't particularly interesting. But Carmen, I've come to argue that Carmen is the character that most exemplifies how Verhoeven likes to use actresses and their star personas to great effect, because Denise Richards is so conventionally beautiful and with those like big doughy eyes and that big beaming smile, and it's so absurd that she looks the way she does going into battle the way she does. And so I think the way Verhoeven is using the Denise Richards star persona and photographing her really keys into how trashy this movie is and its sensibilities are. And I think that's the secret sauce, I think, of Starship Troopers. It's not Dina Meyer as Dizzy. I'm sorry. It's casting Denise Richards as Carmen. That's where the movie sort of is like winking at us more, I think, than anything.
And she's a legit pilot too. Like she has a
Yeah.
pretty major role
Yeah.
in that military. So it's I it's weird. I've always liked Carmen, I guess. I've always stuck up for Denise Richards' characters, actually. Like The World Is Not Enough, January Jones. I'm like, have you guys never watched a Bond movie before?
Isn't it? It's
Her?
Christmas films.
Yeah, Christmas Jones, January Jones. That's an actress from Love
Mad
Actually.
Men. Yeah.
Yeah, Mad Men. We both went. I should have been like American Wedding, but it's yeah, like Christmas. I've always liked her. I think she's great and Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
teach I mentioned I think Drop Dead Gorgeous before because we talked about Drive and we love Brittany
Oh
Murphy.
yeah.
But I teach a cult cinema class, and one semester I showed Tammy and the T-Rex and Drop Dead Gorgeous and Starship Troopers, and I thought, well, this is a Denise Richards trifecta. This is only going to make sense if we invite her to come talk to the class. And this was during the pandemic, so I thought, well, she's probably under lockdown and bored, and she doesn't have to actually trek to our campus. She can just zoom in for like 20 minutes just to say hi. Let's it, go big or go home. So I reached out to her people. Long story short, they declined because she was actually like in Spain shooting something. But
Uh
they were really kind. I mean, I was impressed that they even wrote back. I was expecting that I would never hear from them, but they wrote back and sent their gratitude and said that's lovely and great, but we can't do it. But she sends her best, and so that was nice.
yeah. How'd your students like the movies?
Well, the cool ones got it.
Okay, got it. Tammy,
I
I
mean,
love Paul Walker and Denise Richards. That makes me happy.
that makes me happy. Tammy and the T-Rex is directed by Stuart Rafil, who also did Mac and Me.
Oh
And
my
so,
gosh.
which is another film I feature pretty regularly, but they love Drop Dead Gorgeous, in particular when she serenades Jesus on the cross as part of her talent for the pageant. Yeah, big laughs every
That lady
time.
gets a beer can stuck to her hand. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And real quick, all right,
Ellen
so
Barkin. Yeah.
we'll get back to Johnny Mnemonic, but I watched that scene. So I've been on a Brittany Murphy kick ever since the Drive episode. And there's that scene in Riding with Cars with Boys where she has Drew Barrymore tell her that she's pregnant. And she just goes up, my daughter's a whore. Like just that whole speech that she does in front of everybody walking by. It's just, she's hilarious, Brittany Murphy, in that
Yeah.
scene. And I told my I still haven't seen Black Book, and my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, Mark, we got to watch that." So I've enjoyed my Brittany Murphy kick, but that speech in Riding Cars with Boys made me really happy.
The one, I mean, apart from the obvious ones, Clueless, Drive, um, what have you. The one I like to recommend to people, Brittany Murphy, is the Ramen Girl.
The Ramen Girl. All right, I'll add that.
Yeah, she goes to Japan and becomes an apprentice at a ramen shop.
Oh wow, I've never even heard of this.
Worth your time.
She's the
I believe
best.
the tagline is that her life is on pins and noodles.
If you came up with that line, would you retire?
Yeah, I've peaked.
Oh man,
Dolph versus Dolphin. I don't think that was that bad.
yeah, that was really good. It just he loses. The Dolphin gets the better of him. But yeah, that's like I have a question too. When this movie came out, I remember just being kind of wary of it because Super Mario Brothers, Double
Good point.
Dragon, like that grunge era. Like I saw Ice T and like he had that thing on his head and the drawings on him, and like just the grungy nature of it. I was a little bit over that in '95. I think like cyberpunk or that variation of like post-apocalyptic or futuristic wasteland, but also kind of look kind of cheap. I was a little sick of. So that like, do you think that maybe affected the box office as well? Because when I saw it, I just was kind of I love Keanu. I thought it looked good, but I was like, oh, not another one of these. Did like as far as cyberpunk goes, were you kind of those weren't cyberpunk movies, but do you think that also had people wary or no?
Possibly. I mean, I would assume that audiences who are kind of going based on what's popular and what's interesting would be more attracted to a post-speed Keanu Reeves action
Yeah.
film. That curiosity would outweigh having been disappointed by Richard Stanley's Hardware or Lawnmower Man or Death Machine or something like that. Also, I mean, this is not too long after really successful kind of cyberpunk adjacent films like RoboCop and Terminator. And so, yeah, I mean, that's less about the themes about cyborgs and more about the kind of grungy aesthetic, right? That's interesting that you're bringing that up.
I remember just
Maybe
feeling, I just felt that way because like, Mario, like all those movies look the same, but they all look kind of cheap. But
they do. I mean, but you have other sort of so I mean, these are all iterations of something going on in the culture, right? Because in 95 or maybe 96, you also get Strange Days, you get Hackers,
the net,
the Net. Yeah, so you're getting all these projects that are addressing a similar set of things going on in the culture, and some of them, kind of embrace the cyberpunk, grungy, dystopian aesthetic more than others. But I wonder if that is what explains it, because a lot of these movies disappointed anyway, right? Like I don't
yeah.
think Hacker was that big a hit. Strange Days, I think, was kind of a flop. Although both these movies have a lot of love. Yeah, I don't know. I think people just weren't absorbing it. But what
Yeah.
were they going to, right? They were going to movies like Independence Day and Twisters and Jurassic Park sequels and things like that. So maybe just the appetite for sci-fi, not that Twisters is sci-fi, but the appetite for these things was kind of heading in a more fantastical direction than a more inward-looking, dystopic, cynical direction,
No, that's a
which is
good point.
what cyberpunk really delivers.
And it's kind of cyclical too, right? Where certain sci-fi is popular at certain moments. So I think, yeah, like maybe there's ushering in something new at that era. No, it's interesting. But there was a lot of I feel like 94, 95, and I'm kind of going like the Phantom came out, and there's a lot of that's not cyberpunky at all. It's a comic book adaptation, but there's just a lot of really like interesting films that just didn't do too well, but they sounded great. Like this movie sounded great, but not too many people went and watched it. So I don't know what point I'm trying to make here, but it just it was like it was an odd era where I don't know why, but when you see the trailers for certain films, you're kind of like, oh no, one of these again. So I was kind of wary of this film. I didn't watch this till years and years like later. So it, and I don't even think I ever watched it that closely. Like watching it again and paying attention to it, I love it a lot more now. So I think I was kind of sour on it, but I don't know. I don't know. Right now, though, I love it. I think this movie's great.
Well,
And I like that
do
Johnny's a jerk.
do you know this old theory that when Democrats are in office, vampire films become in vogue, and when Republicans are in office, zombie films come in vogue?
I mean,
It
okay.
doesn't it doesn't
Bush
really hold up.
Bush was in the zombie phase, right? Who's 68? Who's the president in 68? Was it Nick?
68 would is that an election year? So
Because that's
that would be when Johnson withdrew and Nixon won, right?
because then that's Night of the Living Dead. And then the early 2000s was Bush. And then what, Obama 08. That's
So
when
so the
Twilight
reason
came out.
well, it doesn't really hold up because one of the most successful
Walking
cable
Dead.
shows ever is Walking Dead, and
Yeah.
that's a strictly Obama era show. So it doesn't quite hold up under scrutiny, but the theory is because horror films tend to reflect or allegorize sort of anxieties that are going on in the culture at the moment. And so when you have Democrats in office, what's the reigning stereotype? It's that, Democrats are going to tax you and direct money toward welfare services and things like that. So this idea of a bloodsucker, someone who's sucking away your tax dollars and things like that. And also vampires are very intimate and kind of sexualized, right? There's something very queer coded about movies like Interview with the Vampire. There's something really deep and intimate about exchanging fluids the way vampires do. So there's kind of a sexual libertine element to it that conservatives associate with liberals. So that's the logic there. And then when you reverse it, okay, well, what makes the culture anxious when Republicans are in office? It's this sort of like zombie-like hive group mind of kind of brain dead consumption. And of course, the maybe the most zombie apocalypse type imagery we've had in recent years is like January 6th, right? These mindless hordes just like descending on a building and making everything dangerous. So obviously these are vulgar caricatures of both sides, but that's the reigning theory. And so the point I'm making is that, and I haven't thought this through, but I wonder whether or not the sort of deep cynicism of cyberpunk was simply more relevant and more accessible during the Reagan years. But then
Oh,
once you're in the Clinton decade, 95 being smack in the middle of that, the culture isn't quite attuned to what cyberpunk is doing, which is why a lot of these films just kind of, they don't quite make an impression because, cyberpunk is essentially about a dystopian world in which corporations rule over people. And the world is characterized by information technology and biotechnologies that completely blur the line between national and cultural boundaries, but also the boundaries between what's real and what's virtual, or what's biological and what's cybernetic, and the class struggles that emerge from that. I think people are just going to be more sensitive to the danger and oppressive systems that come from that new alignment of power under Republican administrations that focus on deregulating corporate uh, hegemony, right? And so the kind of fears that emerge from that are just going to be more relevant under a Republican administration, particularly Reagan and his kind of mission to deregulate, you know, corporate malfeasance as much as he could. Whereas once you get into the 90s, it's kind of a different era. The Cold War is over, right? And
Mhm.
so that kind of reigning structure of struggle on a global level is kind of past us, and we're sort of ushering in this era of prosperity and globalism, and cultural mixing is not something to be afraid of anymore. And so there isn't the same anxiety about like, oh my God, I'm half this, but half this. What does that mean for my identity? Like, that's not something people are really freaking out about anymore. And so the idea of a cyborg is just kind of fashionable and technologically exciting and optimistic moving forward. Whereas it was something that portended some doom and gloom just a decade earlier. That might be a way to kind of parse the relative success of the genre in the 80s with Blade Runner, Terminator, RoboCop, with the kind of deflation of that genre in the 90s. Maybe.
But it makes sense though, because Longo and Gibson started developing this in '89. So that was
Although the short
that.
story is from 81,
Oh
so
yeah.
it's
Oh,
already
oh, that's
been,
true. Yeah. So '81, and then they started developing it in '89. Wait, wasn't George Bush Senior was the president then, the Republican? Uh,
yeah, Clinton comes in
88 to
92.
92, right? Yeah. So I think Longo loved it, and then this was written beforehand, but then they started developing it during a Republican campaign, which is kind of interesting. And then, but you're right though. If you think about the '90s, you think about the big twister. You think about the rah rah of Independence Day, the rise of Michael Bay. Nicolas Cage was the world's biggest action star, which nobody could have predicted. It was kind of a different era, I think, when Johnny, and I think this thing got delayed so many times that I think by the time it came out, it had missed the beat a little bit. It's like, you know, those movies that straggle a little bit. I think this was one of them. So yeah, I mean, maybe just the long development, the era itself kind of cost it. But also there's so many cooks in the kitchen for this film as well, that
Yeah.
it was never like, because I remember
Death by a
watching the
Thousand
trailer
Cuts.
and I'm like, what's happening here? So it definitely felt stretched, but I don't know. Now looking back at it and just watching his performance and maybe like the black and white cut made me a lot happier with it. I kind of adore this movie. I think I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. Maybe I'm insane, but I like that. Like it's a
Three
good
and a half.
three and a half. Yeah, three and a half. Hey, stupid question. So I just want to get this out of the way before I forget. You have to like you're a courier. You're wet wired. You have to give. You have to deliver data. You have to go from California to New York, and you have to drive, right? And yeah, you get to pick a bodyguard between these
Well,
six.
is it gonna be a hard drive?
It's gonna be a very hard drive. Gosh,
Nailed it.
that's the name of the movie,
Or
Hard
I didn't.
Drive.
No, Johnny Mnemonic has a great poster. One of its posters, you can look it up online, is it's this kind of blue poster, and the camera is sort of aimed upward at Keanu Reeves' crotch, and he's looking down at you, and it says "Meet the ultimate hard drive." Amazing poster. Anyway, you had a question
Oh,
somewhere I
I
keep
see it.
interrupting.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that fantastic?
Oh man, that's great.
What was your
Eh,
question about driving to
Mind
New York?
blowing. Meet the Ultimate Heart. Was that like a VHS cover? That looks like just from a straight up '80s movie. Like that's the movie I want. With toss Rucker Hauer in there. I don't know. Split Seconds, Rucker Hauer in there somehow. That works. Okay, so the question: you have a hard drive. Name of the movie's Hard Drive. You have data in your brain like Cyborg or Johnny Mnemonic, one of those movies, and you have to get from California to New York. I'm going to give you a pick of 6 bodyguards you can pick from. So I picked 3 that deal with like AI and technology, and then I have just 3 regular bodyguards. So here they are: Jane from Johnny Mnemonic, Go from Kill Bill, Gibson Rickenbacker from Cyborg, Joshua from The Creator, Odd Job from Goldfinger, and these are your bodyguards, and or Frank Farmer from The Bodyguard, Kevin Costner.
Yeah, he's good at the sword.
Yeah, and he's good in kitchen fights. Which one would you travel? Which one would you make a hard drive with?
So, oh wait, those are my choices?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't do Go-Go because she um seems a little unstable.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
I'd go with Jane.
Jane?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is some, Dina Meyer bias. I wouldn't go with Odd Job. He just doesn't seem like good conversation on a long road trip, you know?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Who are the other ones?
Frank Farmer from Kevin Costner from The Bodyguard.
He
And
doesn't
then
seem like a conversation either.
nah, no. Joshua from The Creator, because he has to get the kid to wherever the
Sure.
kid has to go. And then Gibson Rickenbacker from Cyborg, because he has to deliver a lady with data in her head to a place as well, and they make a long perilous journey. So you've knocked out Gogo and Odd Job, and you have Jane, Gibson, Joshua, and Frank. Oh no, you knocked out Frank too. So Jane, Gibson, and Joshua are the
I think
remaining.
Joshua would be a backup, but I'm still Jane.
Yeah, I mean she knows what's up as long as she doesn't have the shakes. She's fixed, and she won't mess up. Like you know what I mean. And she puts up with a lot from him, and she's quite loyal.
Yeah, I would be concerned though that I would have to be doing all the driving and you can't hand off because if I'm, catching some Z's in the back and Jane is driving, if she gets into like a spasm like in the middle of, behind the wheel, then that could lead to an accident. So that would be a liability. But
Yeah, and like then I might have to deal like have Rollins yell at me too. Like I just don't know if I want to deal with that.
you'd have to call him and be like, yeah, Jane's like wigging out. What do I do? Like, fuck you, I'm not tech support. I'm a legit doctor. I'm Dr. Rollins.
Yeah, so it's tough, but no, I think Jane, because I mean Gibson, he wouldn't talk much. No, and no. And like Josh was cool, but yeah, I take Jane. The hard drive,
Yeah,
Professor
also, I
Mike
mean,
Dillon.
yeah, as a cyberpunk fan, as a fan of the genre, as well as literature and everything. In terms of pop culture legacy, Jane is the most significant character in the film because so in the short story, she's called Molly, who becomes a recurring character in Gibson's work. If you saw this documentary you mentioned earlier
Mhm.
about Gibson, maybe it came up, but she's the quintessential archetype of what's called a razor girl, like these sort of cybernetically enhanced lady assassins. This character not literally or directly, but the archetype generally in later iterations is what Ghost in the Shell is referencing, the main character there.
Oh
And then
wow.
most importantly, Trinity from the Matrix are all kind of descendants of the Molly character who is kind of reconfigured as Jane and Johnny Mnemonic. So it's not just that I like Jane as played by Dina Meyer, it's that the Jane character archetype looms so large in cyberpunk literature that that would be just like a really cool road trip companion, I think.
And you're a big fan of cyberpunk. Is that when did
Oh
you
yeah.
get into that? Like what's your history with cyberpunk?
Well, I mean, I mentioned when we talked about Drive that I grew up in Tokyo. And so my love of cyberpunk is partly to do with just I love dystopic sci-fi, it's just I like hard science fiction as opposed to more fanciful, Dune or Star Wars, which are almost more like fantasy than sci-fi, but like hard-boiled sci-fi I really dig. And I love noir as well, so there's a good marriage there. But I do wonder whether or not my both introduction to cyberpunk as well as my kind of appreciation for it has less to do with my loving science fiction as a genre, but it has more to do with being having grown up in Japan. Because the thing you have to consider is that it's a genre that emerges essentially in the late 70s and early 80s as a response to sort of Western anxieties around the technological superiority and corporate and market hegemony of Japan at the time
Oh, wow.
and throughout the 80s, right? So, I mean, it's the reason why Blade Runner takes place in LA, but LA looks like Hong Kong, right? It
Well,
looks like an Asian city. And it's also why the Yakuza loom so large in so many cyberpunk stories, including Johnny Mnemonic. It's not an accident that the evil corporate overlord who's trying to mess everything up. They're Japanese, even though it takes place in Newark, right? So yeah, that Japan as a culture circa the 80s when I was growing up there looms really large and it just sort of has, not no small degree of ownership over the kind of conventions of the genre. And so I think, and of course you get films like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, which are Japanese works. And Tetsuo, of course, which is kind of this weird
oh, geez
experimental
Louise.
kind of biotech cyberpunk film. So yeah, I keyed into that pretty early, I think.
Got
That's
it.
another.
What were you into computers and everything, or because I got my
No,
first
no,
computer
I
when I was
can't.
18.
No, I'm not good at that stuff
Oh,
at all.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. You just like the stories and like
Yeah.
the got it. And then
And I
you're a
really
fan of
dig
Gibson?
I'm a fan of Gibson. If your listeners need an entry point, it's Neuromancer from 1984. Um, is like the book. I mean, Gibson also is the guy who introduced a lot of iconography that we now take for granted, right? In terms of like the word cyberspace and how to this is one movie. Hackers does the same thing. These
Oh
are movies
gosh, yeah.
really trying to imagine through CGI what the internet physically looks like. It's all kind of absurd. I mean, both of these movies are kind of charmingly anachronistic windows into what people in the mid 90s thought the internet could look like and what computers were capable of. It's all pretty silly, but there was an attempt, right, to think of cyberspace as an actual space that you could kind of float through. Lawnmower Man does this too, although
Yeah.
that's more VR than internet. And the idea of like jacking in to the internet, and creating avatars, and like Gibson introduced all of that into the cultural lexicon, right? So it's all really fun to go back and take a look at those.
And do you think also like I was watching a documentary about cyberpunk in the 90s, and I, I I think Gen X was popping up, and you just had a lot more grunge. You had a lot more like I guess more Gen X style. And I know that there were some hackers, and then I was watching this hour-long documentary about like these people who know about computers now, and they're like, oh, I could get in there and change things, and we could freak and do long distance calls, and I like to go into people's websites and just look around. Like it seemed like a counterculture a little bit, like it was still kind of like an open,
Hmm.
like it seemed like at the time cyberspace was, there are very few people who knew how to really dig in, and they just like to explore that. So there's kind of something counterculture about it a little bit if you were a kind of hacker, or if you were, like appreciated cyberpunk. I think it was just such a new world. um
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's about because you have to think about all the kind of optimism and promise that comes with the early age of the internet. It's this kind of completely new way of consuming and delivering and trafficking in information, and that's
mhm.
going to kind of democratize information in a way. That was kind of the early promise of the internet. And so what you tend to get is in the genre is this sort of convention of people scraping things together at the bottom of society and fighting against the systems of oppression that come from uh, uh, corporate power and things like that. Because the internet now gives us access to the same things. If you know how to navigate and surf the internet, then you can hack into things and use the tools of oppression against power, right? And that's the punk in cyberpunk, if you think about it that way, right?
Oh yeah.
It's why the heroes tend to be in cyberpunk narratives. The heroes tend to be hackers who are fighting or going against, the system, a capital T, capital S, the system. So the most famous description of cyberpunk as a genre is it's a merging of high tech and low life.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I can't remember if Gibson is the one who coined that phrase, but that's an early kind of descriptor of what the genre is doing. These people sort of at the bottom and scraping things together in back alleys and augmenting themselves in ways that are completely improvised and unauthorized, kind of the unauthorized use of technology. Like this is not what it was built for, but we can appropriate it or co-opt it and use it for our own means in this really punk way. That's kind of the ethos.
And like I guess the modern iterations are like Elysium, where Matt Damon saves the world from polo people and then opens up
Yeah, yeah. There's always kind
healthcare.
of narratives of resistance.
Oh, that's interesting. And also, we're going to talk about Demolition Man eventually, like Dennis Leary from
Mhm.
that, the people who live in the
Yeah, yeah,
sewers.
yeah. They're the low techs of that movie, basically.
Oh god, and it's fighting against this really clean, fake society. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's the low techs, but I guess that's always been a part of cinema, though. Like whether it's the greasers or
Hmm.
I guess as society changes, like those kind of types of characters change, and they kind of adapt with what's been given to them.
Yeah,
That's
I mean they
interesting.
do they do plug into pre-existing narratives of like resistance movements and
Yeah.
fighting the power and things like that. But what cyberpunk does is that it imagines what that would look like in a world in which we're besieged by technology and computer access and things like that. Are those the tools that both oppress us, but also can we use them as our weapons of liberation, basically? Um, the one thing that I complain, I think I have a criticism of Johnny Mnemonic, which is that it doesn't give us any scenes to really give us a sense of how the rich people are living.
Oh yeah, none.
Yeah, in order to provide this juxtaposition to make real sense of the class struggle that's inherent in this kind of dystopian society, right? Because cyberpunk is largely already about people using technology and, like I said, these unauthorized ways in street alleys and things like that, and improvising their implants and augmentations, which is why Jane is a quintessential cyberpunk character because she's got the implants, but they're so shoddy and done in back alleys that they're malfunctioning on her. But all of that needs to presuppose the technology having official uses by rich people, and that dynamic is implied here, but it's never addressed or explored in a way that kind of really kind of what demonstrates what that class disparity looks like in the film, because we simply don't have any characters who represent that side of the ledger. And so as a result, the film, like the picture feels incomplete in terms of the world building of Johnny Mnemonic. That's small criticism.
No, but you're absolutely right. You don't have the high rise to compare it to, or Snowpiercer, where you like the people bust through the back of the train and learn how everyone else is living. Like you never have that scene because you
Yeah.
immediately just go to Newark and it's gross.
Hmm. Well, we spend the whole movie in the gross parts of Newark.
Quote
Right.
unquote gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grungy. Yeah, yeah.
We see the
Um,
skyscrapers in the distance, right?
mhm.
The show that really does a good job, I don't think it's that great, but in terms of cyberpunk world building, in terms of like, yeah, these are the class disparities that emerge in a world like this, is the Netflix show Altered Carbon.
Oh yeah, yeah. I dig that
Yeah,
show.
it does a really good job of sort of showing how your access to the technology and your ease of access and ease of maneuvering around the technology really makes a difference between the people who live up there versus the people who live down here. Duncan Jones's Moon is also pretty good
Yeah.
about addressing this. Not a great film. No, so not Moon. Mute.
Mute.
Yeah,
I like
Mute. It
that
takes
film.
place in the same universe as Moon, but in Mute, which is very very cyberpunk,
Yeah.
um, kind of is concerned with a lot of these questions of all the promise and potential of being able to augment your body and using nanotechnology to clear your diseases and live forever. Yeah, that's all really wonderful, but of course, in a capitalist society, that technology is only going to become available to those who can afford it, and that leaves a lot of people behind. And so, a lot of these sort of quasi-Marxist class struggles are also like at play in a lot of these worlds as well.
Even the Mute posters look a little noirish. I
Mhm.
remember that. And also Lita does that too, where you see where the rich people live, but then you never get to really see how the rich people live. So then they're
Which
just
one?
trying to get
Alita?
Alita Battle
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Angel. Yeah. That's there, yeah, I guess there's always a wide gap in that. Oh.
I think
Sorry. I know I just
the
got
big,
quiet there,
well,
but I got hit with a bunch of data. I got hit with 260 gigabytes right there when you were
gigabytes. Yeah,
talking to me. Yeah.
you need a mouth guard. Yeah.
I
It's
got
so
the seepage is
yeah.
big.
Yeah, I want to hear about your seepage, but the iconography does repeat itself, right? Because when he jacks into the web and is collecting all the data, it's just like when he's jacking into the Matrix, right? So when he takes off the goggles, you almost expect Keanu Reeves to just be like, "I know kung
Whoa.
fu now."
Yeah.
It's kind of a mirror of the same thing, right? I mean, so the real tell that this movie has, and so does Hackers, and so do a few other films, is what I think is maybe the most iconic scene of Johnny Mnemonic, which is that he's got the VR goggles and Keanu is just like pantomiming, opening folders and grabbing things.
Yes.
It's preposterous, right?
Yes.
Um, I mean, I do love a freak scene, right? PH freak. I'm glad you're familiar with this term,
Yeah.
but
I'm freaking. I love that line in Hacker. Sorry. Just I'm
yeah,
freaking.
yeah. So it's iconic because it really shows this sort of idea of, and it's largely based on a yet still developing idea of what the internet really is. you know People are still kind of grasping what this new technology is and what does it mean, that what kind of potential it has for businesses and the economy and daily life and social life and all the rest of it. Um, and so it's really kind of optimistic and imaginative in terms of, well, we don't quite understand what it is, so let's imagine it as a physical space that you can float through, not glide through, not walk through. Although you do walk through it in Disclosure, right? Because with Michael Douglas, Disclosure has this VR sequence when he's like an avatar walking
Yeah.
through file cabinets. So people are like in the movies really trying to get a bead on like what does the internet actually look like? And what it looks like is these bright colors and all these flashing lights and like what synapses popping everywhere. And it's just kind of a cool techno city that you float through. Uh, and you can do anything. You can be anyone, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of optimism that people had at the early stages of the internet. That I think they're trying to give a visual component to in movies like this, which is what makes these movies, I think, really charming. They're completely anachronistic in that representation, but you can see the kind of like, oh my God, we can do anything.
One thing I
There's a
love,
playfulness
uh,
there.
one thing I love too about his acting here, I remember just thinking he has to put that thing over his face, so Keanu Reeves can't see anything, so he just has to move his hands and fake type, and so he's expanding a lot of stuff. He's doing a lot of hand flipping, and that seems like my nightmare as an actor. Like I was watching Elizabeth Olsen be Scarlet Witch in all those Avengers movies, and she's basically just raving to shoot those orbs out of her hand. So
Right.
like, just imagine being on set and you're just Keanu, kind of like Longo's like, all right, now twist your left hand, twist your right, all right, expand. Like that's when I guess you really have to embrace the you're playing a role type thing. I just don't think I'd be capable of that, and I love how Keanu does it. But yeah, I just whenever I started when I was watching that scene, it made me think about Elizabeth Olsen's rave moves and all the
Yeah.
Avengers because that seems
If
like my
I
nightmare as an actor. It has nothing to do
if
with going inside of the internet, but it just as far as an actor, it seems miserable.
yeah, if I was Elizabeth Olsen, I'd say like, you guys are gonna make this look good, right? Because I look so ridiculous right now that I'm putting a lot of trust in you guys to make this make sense later. And so I think what would be really funny is if you could tinker with the audio in that scene from Johnny Mnemonic and remove the score and then maybe raise the Foley stems, like just how utterly ridiculous that whole scene would seem if you just remove the musical component and the sound effects that give it the dramatic impact that the scene is trying to telegraph, right? If you remove all that, then it's just a guy like pantomiming with a weird visor on. It wouldn't make any sense.
But he nails it. He pulls it off.
And he totally nails it. That's a great scene.
Yeah, and I love when he's just ordering all this stuff too, and Jane's just going around grabbing all of it, and she gets to use her grenade in that scene too, which makes you really happy. Um,
It's like a pink grenade too.
everything a girl needs.
Yeah, it's I mean, it is it Keanu Reeves's best worst performance after Dracula?
He lost a lot of weight for this movie,
Yeah.
and he looks just so exasperated that I don't think so. Is his best work? Let me pull up his movies here.
Devil's Advocate is also
Oh
pretty
my gosh, the
classic,
accent in
the
that.
Southern accent.
You know what I learned in Bram Stoker's Dracula? So Coppola, Keanu's such a good dude, and he was so professional on Bram Stoker's set that I don't know why Coppola didn't do it, but Coppola was like, I just like him so much. This is from his words. He said he liked Keanu so much he felt bad telling him about his accent, so he just let him do it the whole time. Like that's terrible direction.
Yeah, that's irresponsible as a
Yeah.
director.
So you see the movie and you're like, thanks, Francis. So yeah, that accent's bad. Oh, let's see, Keanu.
That's the my dearest Mia, I'm on my way to Budapest. The Count, he's a strange old soul.
Oh, I like Carrie Ells in that movie and Hopkins. There's and the visuals, but yeah, Devil's Advocate because it's just the acts. But see, I've always liked him. Like Speed. You know why I've always been taken by Keanu Reeves is growing up. Like, I never bonded with Stallone or any of those guys. I always liked John Cusack a lot. Like specifically, Say Anything because I used to box. I used to box in high school. I used to wrestle in high school, but I was still like a nice dude. But I wasn't like nice dude. I was a pain in the butt, but I wasn't just like a bro, if that makes sense. So like watching Lloyd Dobler be a good guy, but also kick people in the head, I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like that's an interesting character. So when I saw Keanu in Speed, you're so used to the brawn of a lot of the villains, and just Stallone meets a lady, hooks up with her. Arnold blows people up. At JCVD, sensitive guy, he gets his butt kicked, but he always hooks up with the girl. And then you watch Speed, and he's just a nice dude, and his relationship with Sandra Bullock was just so cool. Like they were just nice people, and they were like bonded towards the end. But he was a like, kind of a genuinely like nice guy. So I've always liked Keanu for that. Like I always liked that character from Speed because he pulls that off. So
He comes across as really genuine.
yeah,
I think, right? Even when he's being kind of a goofball, he seems like a really genuine guy.
Hmm.
Um, or even like when he's a knucklehead, like in Parenthood or of course Bill and Ted. He's always likable and charming. And I think as the internet culture took over and we just sort of, we have decades more of Keanu stuff, both on screen and off screen, like lore. He's kind of a private person, right? So
Oh
there's
yeah.
only so much you can kind of glean from the internet and things like that. But the more time goes on, I think the more everything you learn about Keanu only reinforces that initial impression that he's just a good, fun dude, right?
And he keeps having hits. Every hit, 80s big hit, 90s big hit, 2000s big hit, 2010s big hits, 2020s big hits. Like the guy just keeps rolling with the decades, keeps kind
Yeah.
of reinventing
I,
himself.
he also, I mean, I don't know that he's reinventing himself, but I do think that
Hmm.
he understands his persona, right?
There it is.
He's in
Yeah.
on the joke. He knows that he's a meme. He has been before. He knows that what people say about him. He knows where what value he brings to a project. I think he's really self-aware in a way that's unpretentious and
Yeah.
self-deprecating. And like I said, I think he's in on the joke in ways that are really, really lovable.
And like without, I don't know, Matrix could have worked without him, John Wick, but he brings this really interesting energy to them as well. So like I guess when people say I've never thought he was a bad actor, I know a lot of people say he's terrible, and I just don't really have the energy to argue about that back and forth because that just sounds horrible. But I've always, I mean, I don't know how a guy who's been around this long, who keeps getting roles and he keeps like starring in gigantic films, like and liked as much as he is, I don't see him being a bad actor. But I think when he gets it with a good director, they know how to use him. Like I think the Chad
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Stileski
yeah.
knows how to use him. The Wachowskis knew how to use him.
It's that. It's also, he's a really interesting choice in certain frameworks and things like that. And I think you also have to think about what do we mean by good acting, right? Good screen acting. Because like, is he a sort of a classically brilliant, nuanced actor in the way of like a Daniel Day-Lewis? No, right? But if that's your marker for excellence in the performance in the field, then no, Keanu Reeves is not a Meryl Streep or a whoever, but or he's not Peter O'Toole. But what he does do is that he's really good at sort of bringing his physicality to bear in a performance, right? He knows how to command the screen. He knows how to move his body and kind of stare intently in ways that are inherently cinematic. And this is why the John Wick movies, like, is he doing quote unquote good acting in John Wick? Like, arguably not, but is he like a fantastically dynamic screen presence in that film? 100%, right? That movie works because of Keanu Reeves and the kind of energy and charisma and command of your eyeballs that he manages, right? And that's what makes him a star. It
and
doesn't necessarily make him, a future Oscar winner as an actor, but it is what makes him. So it's not what makes him an actor; it's what makes him a star. Those are two different categories. I think we need to
that's
kind
a
of
great
have
point.
a separation.
And there's a bit of a wild card to him as well. There's a little bit of Nick Cage energy sometimes. You watch Knock Knock, or you
Right.
watch Johnny Mnemonic. Like he has a. What's interesting about him is, yeah,
There's
he
a go
definitely,
for broke
yeah,
aspect. Yeah.
exactly. And as much as I know this is a terrible example, but there's actors maybe like Tom Hiddleston or the guy from the guy who played the Danish girl, Eddie Redmayne. Very good actors, but they're very polished. They're very maybe overly polished sometimes. Very good, but they're never like their screen presence never straight up lights up the world.
Hmm.
So I think I don't know. I think what I like Keanu too is you watch his accent in Bram Stoker's, or you see him just go for broke during speeches in Johnny Mnemonic or Knock Knock. You see him popping up in various films. Like I think he had like a little bit of an unpolished wild card bit that makes him interesting as
Like
well.
little Gonzo.
Yeah, right. But he's also kind of sensitive in roles, and like he doesn't look like the traditional action hero, so I like that as well. And Catherine Bigelow cast him and Swayze very specifically because they both have kind of sensitive sides, and they're both very handsome and athletic. So she wanted those presences on screen for Point
Hmm.
Break. She didn't want Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson. Like she wanted those two on the screen because of the way they moved and like their sensitivity to their characters. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. So he has like a
And this,
sensitivity side, which I love, like kind of like a he also just seems I know a lot of people don't I mean, I guess Cusack had that smart side, but he also had like a sensitive side. So I think he checks a lot of boxes as far as being a star and a screen presence.
It's this ties into the cyberpunk conversation pretty significantly too, and I think, I mean, we're also now with Mark Dacascos and Brandon Lee under our belts, we're developing quite a pattern here of discussing these half Asian action
Yeah.
star, which as a hapa myself, I really enjoy. I'm not sure who we could do next since it's such a finite list of people. I don't know. Maggie Q? I have no idea.
Have you
Anyway,
seen the Protege?
it's pretty good.
I love the Protege. We
As
don't have to do
a
that.
sort of late era Frank Marshall. I just saw The Cleaner actually a couple weeks ago, which is also Marshall. It's all right.
Yeah.
Check it if you must. But okay, the point though is that we've talked
Sorry.
about Keanu Reeves. We've talked about him in the specific context of being a biracial action star, following Dacascos and Brandon Lee. Um, and that's particularly interesting in his associations with cyberpunk, because this isn't a one-off for Keanu, right? He did The Matrix, he did Scanner Darkly, he's in that
Yeah.
cyberpunk Edge Runners game, right? So people are keying into something with him that makes it non-coincidental, right? I mean, I do think he is quintessentially cyberpunk as a figure, not just because he straddles the line between being proficient as an action star, and so he can handle the gunfights and the martial arts, as we've seen in Wick films and things like that. But he's also someone who can plausibly weaponize computers. Like he can play a nerd at a keyboard. There's a nerdiness to him that makes him work equally as Thomas Anderson as Neo. He can switch roles pretty fluidly, and on top of that, he's ethnically ambiguous, right? He passes for a white guy and plays a white guy in many films, but he also has the sort of ethnic ambiguity that ties directly into the themes of globalization and cultural mixing and the kind of erasure of traditional boundaries that are the foundation of the kind of worlds that cyberpunk is typically invested in.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is the ideal casting choice for the kinds of value systems that cyberpunk is really uh, keying into,
Yeah. Like
because
I guess
it's about a post-global world, right?
like that, and like it's like a lot of like androgynous characters as well. Like just very doesn't the pronouns don't really matter, and like this the people from all over the world join into one mega city, I guess, and kind of form like
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's all in response to what we loosely refer to as globalization and the gender fluidity that comes with that. I mean, I mentioned the kind of ethnic fluidity that you get with all the cultural mixing and biracial characters and things like that, which is a very kind of post-national, post-racial idea. The gender fluidity, I think the people who really brought that into the fray are the Wachowskis, because the first time I saw The Matrix, I didn't have the language to understand it, but it did, like they say, like a splinter in the back of my mind, like Morpheus says, something always bothered me. So why does Trinity look so much like Neo? They have the same haircut pretty much. They have the same kind of lithe figures. And if you wanted a strong visual contrast, the love interest ought to be like a blonde or something like that. I don't know why they went with that choice, and it always kind of nagged at me. And then I realized, of course, after the Wachowskis transitioned, and you realize the kind of interplay between sort of gender fluidity and queerness that isn't explicit in that film, but it's clear that they were doing that all along. And there have been since people who really look at the Matrix as a queer allegory. So in hindsight, looking at that with what we know about the Wachowskis, it really kind of opens up very different kind of readings.
Wow. Yeah, they couldn't explicitly put that into not the film, but by doing it the way they did it, like you said, it kind of puts something in your mind, correct?
Yeah, I don't
Which is a
know.
smart way of doing that. Or maybe
Yeah,
they were
I don't
still
know that
figuring it
anybody.
out.
I don't know that anybody was preventing them from putting it in, because they obviously deal with really explicit lesbian themes in Bound
Yeah, that's true.
right beforehand. But it's done on this allegorical level that I didn't have the wherewithal or the vocabulary to really kind of read correctly at the time. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm realizing, oh yeah, the kind of Sense8 sort of queer coding things that the Wachowskis are clearly interested. It's not something they developed later, during or after they transitioned. It's something that they've always been interested in. It was sort of under the surface a little bit more. And so that's kind of an eye-opening experience I had revisiting The Matrix maybe like 15 or so years after it first came out.
And that's why The Matrix and Starship Troopers are so great. You could watch them with your lizard brain. You can just watch
Yeah.
and be like, that was awesome. And then years later you go, wait, like I see what Verhoeven was going for. I see what the Wachowskis were going like. They age so well because they evolve as you get more mature, and they just that like I guess it's a sign of just really good filmmaking. But yeah, both those movies definitely change over time. The more you grow and start to look at them.
Well, they bend and weave with the culture, right? And so the Matrix and the idea of being red pilled, that iconography has been completely co-opted by the sort of alt-right men's
Yeah,
rights culture as well. So it kind of goes to show that these themes of resistance and power struggles and things like that. I mean, they're available for both sides of the left right equally, right? It's just you can co-opt this imagery for any reason if you view yourself as being part of a larger struggle, whether it's legitimate or not. And so, yeah, that's been an interesting journey that the Matrix has had as well. It's just kind of it the fact that it has aged so well is to say that it has been consistently relevant and malleable to the culture as the culture changes because people keep finding new ways to plug it into whatever's going on right now. I mean, it's a really prescient movie in that way, right? It predicted a lot of things that have come true. And so it's just kind of consistently available for different reading strategies as the kind of focal points and pressure points of our culture change over time. It's still like there's plenty that movie's so dense that there are different aspects of it that seem relevant even as the culture changes around it.
and the more you watch movies as well, like Hard Boiled and John Woo type stuff, you learn about its influences as well. So it's fun watching like what influenced it and then what it's become. Like because at 17 I had really no I knew about Hard Target and movies like that, but I hadn't watched Hard Boiled yet and the way that he changed gun warfare or like the way gunfights are seen on screen. And so once
Yeah.
learning about their influences, like that, I don't know, it's all cool. It's all tied together. I guess it's definitely aged better than Johnny Mnemonic, but it's still this is a charming movie. I guess that's my thing about Johnny. It's scrappy. You had a beautiful artist making it. Gibson wrote the script.
Mhm.
Keanu gives it all, and like you can just kind of see how it fell apart. It's interesting too, where Drive is beautiful, but they had no budget, and they were just talking about how fast they had to move. And then I think Rapid Fire was pretty easy to make. They kind of knew what they wanted, and then this one just sort of ballooned from what it should have been, and you can feel that with all the extra characters. But I think credit goes to Longo and the rest of the actors for at least giving it a personality. Like this movie is still a lot of fun to watch. And it's 90 some minutes. So you can't beat
Well,
that.
can you see this being remade?
Yeah, because I mean, listen, like I was reading a review from Ebert, and I don't want to quote him all the way, but he said the hero's entrusted with valuable cargo, which he must get from A to B without being killed by the bad guys or stepping in anything. There's a pretty girl, evil villains, a weird prophet, and of course a violent final shootout in an abandoned flame factory. So I mean, the
Abandoned
skeletons.
flame
Yeah.
factory,
So he
and then
compared.
all they produce is flames.
He said he compared the thing at the end to an abandoned. He calls them all abandoned flame factories, which is amazing.
Yeah,
But
T2's got one of those. Yeah.
there's so many abandoned flame factories in cinema. But I think that makes sense because it would be easy to remake because the skeleton's there. This is a very simple plot, and so I mean, and also nowadays with hackers and it's like, hey, well, what's the easiest way not to get hacked is just to have it on a file, like a hard piece of hardware. So then, you know, you
I
can't
mean,
get,
it doesn't make any sense as a premise, right? Because if
no.
transferring data through telecommunications is too risky and you need data couriers to physically carry things across national borders, what what is it you can store in a hard drive in your brain that you can't physically carry on a disk? Disguise it if you need to, but it just seems superfluous to surgically implant the information in your brain when you could just carry it in your pocket because you're
On
carrying it with you either way.
You could just put it into your body. Like you could just, all right, we're gonna
Yeah.
protect this, and we're gonna put it in this kind of thing. It won't poison your body, but it's in you, so it can't fall out of your pocket when you're going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Why does it need to
Um,
interface with your brain? That's a
yeah,
good question. Yeah.
like you can't get pickpocketed. This is in your gut, and we will cut you open when you come back, and we'll just keep repeating that process. And there's a limit to that because couriers can only get cut open so often. But yeah, you don't have to shove it into his brain. You could just put it in, and this is still the future in this world. Well, yeah, at then they were envisioning the future. So it's a very silly idea, but it's so simple that it works. Okay, he's a courier. You can't email it because people will find it. So just stuff it in a dude and have him go somewhere. That's really easy to follow. So it could totally be remade. And also nowadays, you wouldn't even have to shove it in his head. Just be like, hey, here's the data in your hand. Let's go. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Cyborg, the lady, had it in her head. Did she? She's had it in her body somewhere.
You mean Jane?
No, the movie Cyborg
Oh,
with
with
JCVD. Remember the
JCVD.
lady had the
Right, right, right.
she was just I don't know, whatever that was. But yeah, I mean it's just here, take it. Go to Newark. So no one can hack us. Like it seems more logical today to just carry something somewhere.
Or I mean, strap it to a dolphin, have them swim it across if they're so advanced. I have a question for you about Jones, the dolphin. Do you think he's happy?
No. Uh
Just sitting there in the tank, just him
Horrifying.
in waves?
And I know in the short story, the dolphin was a heroin addict that was living in
Yes,
a large aquarium, and they had to give it smack in
that's
the
right.
trade.
So the short story mainly follows the premise, but it doesn't have the epidemic storyline that everyone has the black shakes or whatever they call it. Johnny's past and him trying to remember his childhood is not doesn't really figure into his characterization either. But Jones is a heroin addict who trades his cyber skills for smack, basically for a quick fix. That's his trade. So he's not there to like help out the low techs as their secret weapon. No, he's just some like back alley dolphin who's like, you got some smack, I'll give you some data.
And Jones can't go anywhere. Like the water is kind of right